small town. But I'm the eldest of eight, and I love my family. I'm very family oriented. I grew up storytelling with them, making our own stories, which led me to go to film school later on because I wanted to share stories that can influence other families. Like, we used to sit around the couch, watch movies. We loved family sitcoms, and I wanted to kind of just continue that. After I saw like a dip, especially for like Black family comedies. And yeah, and that's kind of like the mission I've been on. And I've been in LA for about 8 years now. Done everything from being an assistant to like Tracy Ellis Ross, working on sets like Westworld, worked at Warner Brothers on the corporate side, and I've just learned so much. And I finally have launched my own production company, making my own projects, and yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about moi.
Congratulations. That's big dreams. How does it feel?
How does it feel to have big dreams? I guess I've always had big dreams since I was a kid. Like I always envisioned it for myself, but actually like once I finally moved to LA, I was like, "Oh my God." And then once I worked at like Warner Brothers, I was like, "OMG." And then like, you just are climbing that ladder and, reaching certain milestones and goals. It's kind of like a disbelief, but it's also inspiring because it's like okay, I can do it, and that means you can too with whatever you're thinking of accomplishing.
I absolutely love that because big dreams, bigger reality, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And you're from
And
Texas, right? So everything's bigger in Texas.
everything is from their meal portions to the hair. But yeah, I love that. Bigger dreams, bigger realities. Because, and I'm not gonna say it's easy, because sometimes it can seem far away, especially like when you have a big dream. But sooner or later, write the vision, make it plain. It shall come to pass.
She's dropping. I told you, wisdom from the heavens. Didn't I tell
Oh,
you? I t-
yeah, I can't take credit for that one. That one's from straight from the Lord.
So
Literally.
growing up then, you mentioned that you're very family oriented. You watched all these shows, all these movies. So what was your favorite sitcom or favorite show? Let's broaden it. What was your favorite show growing up and why?
Wow, I think two came to mind. One was That's So Raven, because I saw myself in Raven Simone and like her comedy. So I just love that show so much. And then the second one that came to mind was Everybody Hates Chris, because I'm from a rural part in Texas, and my mom used to always say, and I felt like things were just always happening to me as a kid, and my mom was like, "You remind me of that Chris character from Everybody Hates Chris." And so just seeing myself in those characters on screen and those families, those Black families, I was like, wow, like this is so cool because, you know, it's not only a representation of me, but I feel like I'm part of their family as well. And so it kind of made me want to continue that feeling for others.
That's a everything. What was you said? Everybody hates Chris. I know that show. That's So Raven. I heard about that, but that's the girl from the Cosby Show, right?
Yes, she was the little girl. Yeah, she grew up and then she did she had her own show. And don't get me wrong, there's a bunch. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I would watch that with my aunt. Have you seen that one?
Well, yeah, I'm old enough to know Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but
Okay.
I was a
Sister,
kid.
sister,
But I know
the
Sister Sister.
twin. Like, I could go on forever, And on the movie side, Rush Hour, we would watch that. Me and my brothers just recently watched that because I'm here visiting family now. Like, and it's like, wow, it doesn't get old.
I have all three parts of Rush Hour, and I watch it probably once a month. But Rush Hour 2 is my favorite one, though. Can't lie.
You have to, you have to. Rush Hour 1 is a classic. That's the one we actually recently watched, and I'm like, man, no one was touching Chris Tucker's humor. He was just phenomenal.
Yeah, he was. I know that he found God like a couple of years ago, so his humor kind of changed, and rightfully so
Mhm.
because what he was saying back in the Rush Hour era, he definitely couldn't, be comfortable saying now. But you're right. Like there was a run where like 5, 6, 7 years where he was just the man when it came to comedy in movies.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He really held it down. Like I really admire him, Martin Lawrence, Eddie Murphy, who I got to see work on Candy Cane Lane when I was an assistant to Tracy on that movie. Like seeing like just being near him like on set in person was just like mind blowing, especially like coming from where like, a small town in Texas and we watched like, Norbit and like Shrek and like, all of his stuff that he's done. And it's just like, wow, like you're actually a real person. Just kidding. Besides that, and seeing him work and take the craft so seriously as well is like, yeah, this is a job at the end of the day, which is also like I something I took note of as well.
When you started to put these dreams that it seems like you've had from your childhood into reality now, what is something that you learned about yourself that was maybe a little bit surprising that you're able to overcome it?
Wow, something surprising that I was able to overcome. Honestly, hmm. I think it has to be being seen, my shyness. So a lot of people don't know this and it's harder for people now to believe, but when I was a kid I was very shy. Like I was the kid that would be in class and I wasn't talking. I was just sitting, looking, listening to the teacher, obviously got good grades, like did what I was supposed to do but always kept my head down kind of thing. Like I really, was shy and quiet. And it's crazy to think about how I've overcome that so much that when I tell people that know me now or even just like 10 years ago, like they're like, "What? You were shy? You were quiet?" And to overcome that and to be like, "Yeah, this is me. This is who I am. This is me on stage." Like at 13 was my first play that I ever did, and then that at school, and that's when I realized like, oh wow, like I have a voice, and like I think also like teachers, like I remember in like the sixth grade, this was I think the first time anybody ever heard me speak. It was like Black History Month and we had to present a person, and my person was Whitney Houston, and I had to talk about Whitney Houston. And I remember afterwards people were just like stunned, and my teacher at the time came up to me and was like, you need to do debate, like you can speak, like you can really speak, you spoke so clearly in the microphone, you did it. I was like I did, like, and that was kind of the first time I was like, wow, like OMG, I can speak. But like I can do this. I can speak in front of people. And then after that, I did do debate in high school and in college. And I traveled doing that, like in Spain, Barcelona, to London, all over the States. And then that after that I went into pursuing acting and like filmmaking full time, and it's like taking those skills with me. It really goes to show like when you're achieving a dream you don't just get the dream, you have to make your toolkit, you gotta get resources to get to that dream. So as a kid at 10 years old, this shy kid having a dream of being like the girl from Cosby Show, like That's So Raven, being on TV, or, being like these, stars. It's like, okay, that's your dream, but life, God, will guide you to that. And that's kind of what happened to me. Because, shoot, if I would have did it back then, I don't think I could have been able to do it.
You mentioned shyness, and I think so many kids growing up, right, have something that maybe they feel they have to overcome. It could be maybe their looks, their weight, their height, shyness. Even I grew up poor, and oh my God, poor people just don't make it, right? There's always like a chip
Yeah.
on a lot of kids' shoulders, right? Like for you growing up, when you identified this shyness, was there any obstacles that were in your way that you had to work on yourself to overcome?
Yes. You know what's so funny about this, what I'm about to say? I think it was honestly part of it that I had to overcome was my name. So let me finish. So my first name, so I've been going by Belle since I was 12. But my birth name is Behelia. It's a Bible name. It's a Hebrew name that actually means shyness. It actually means shy. And I remember, so Behelia is spelled Bilhah, Bilhah. And what's so funny about this name is, have you seen Handmaid's Tale at all? Handmaid's Tale, or heard of the show?
One of my exes watches it, so I know a little
Okay,
bit about it. Yes.
that show
Apparently,
was
we're living
inspired.
in that time or something, she always says.
Oh, that show is actually inspired by the character in the Bible, Behelia, because she was taken as a handmaiden to Jacob because Rachel couldn't have kids. And that was my name. And I was like, why the H is this my name? And so that was my name. And it was very hard having that name growing up because everyone pronounced it wrong. Like when they would see it, Billa, Bilha, Bila, Balula, Balila, Bala, Banana. And for me, it was hard to like find myself, hard to fit in. And I remember being like, okay, I need a new name. I was like asking my mom, like, call me Rachel, something. Give me a nickname, something. And but it was actually right before seventh grade, junior high, because that's when you can, change your identity, become a new person, you're going to a new school. Um, a nurse during checkups was like, she looked at my name, she was like, but I'm just gonna call you Belle. And she called me Belle. And my mom and I looked at each other. And it's funny because I think a year before that, someone just called me Belle too, but it didn't resonate. And we knew, like, oh, this is your name now. And I think that's what helped me overcome a lot of things is like kind of that new identity, like leaving, because even, and I learned this, like, even in the Bible, God will change the person's name, Abram to Abraham, Sarai to Sarah. And then my name got changed, or like we changed my name. And it does change your identity. Like I just saw an interview with this K-pop singer. Her real name was something complicated, and a fortune teller told her, change your name and it'll bring fortune. And she changed her name to Lalisa, and now she's like some big K-pop star. And it's like, wow, the power a name can hold on you is kind of crazy. Since we also talked about names, I guess I'm just tying it back to the beginning.
Do you think a lot of people struggle with owning their identity, especially as they continue to get older in life?
Yes. And I love that you asked me that because I've realized that the stories I want to tell as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, is stories that have themes of identity, redemption, and community, um, as well as family, obviously. Because I realized that it starts with identity. How you move starts with identity. Everything begins with identity, the decisions you make, everything. And if you don't have identity, like I was telling my younger brother this, what's the saying? If you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. And so it's like, so it's like you have to at least know yourself, know what you stand for, what you believe in, your identity, who makes terrain, bell, you listening. And that doesn't necessarily mean where you came from, because you talked about like poverty and stuff like that, which is funny because, growing up as the eldest of seven kids, we didn't grow up with money. But what's so funny is every time I went to school, people thought my parents were lawyers. People thought I came from money. And I'm like, where are you getting this? But and it's like, we're regular people just trying to make it like everybody else. And so it's like it doesn't necessarily mean like what you grew up with, where you came from. It's what you identify with. And the name I had, for instance, was Shy. I didn't have to identify with that. And growing up, I learned that I don't have to identify with Shy. I don't have to identify with being quiet all the time and like being scared, to be seen. Because I feel like dreams are also a calling for you to be the real you at the end of the day.
When I was growing up, to your point, I grew up poor. I didn't know my mother and my father growing up. I was raised by my grandmother, rest in peace. And once I started to find success in my 20s, I felt like, okay, this feels good. I know what I want to do. Even though I was still struggling in a lot of areas, I was finding myself.
Yeah.
One thing that happened is the people around me didn't necessarily celebrate the same success. So now I started to have self doubt. Like, oh my God, am I going to actually am I going to be able to find the life that I want? Can I grow into the man that I want to be? Can I help people in the way I want to help them? That stuck with me, and I had to overcome the self-doubt because I realized me doubting myself wasn't something I was born with. It was because maybe the people around me didn't see my vision.
Hmm.
So when you shared your story or when you're seeing other people that are around you, what role do you think self-doubt plays in people not being able to obtain their dreams or the life that they want?
I mean, I have to agree with you. You said it really perfectly because it's true. Like that self-doubt can come from, yes, other people around you not believing or seeing the same vision. Just to add to that before I go into my next point, I remember when I first moved to LA and I saw the Steve Harvey show. He used to say at the end when they weren't airing, he just started preaching to us. And he would say, God showed you that vision for a reason. He didn't show everybody else around you. He showed you. So that could be why they don't get it. I think what else adds to self-doubt is fear. A lot of fear of not making it, like you said, or what is it, imposter syndrome, or sometimes I think people also get guilt, like if they make it and maybe, other people around them aren't having that, because they're not bringing them along with them or they can't at the time. Because I remember that was the thing when I first moved to LA as well. Like a guy, he was like, you can't help everybody, you have to help yourself first, so you can help everybody. And so sometimes that could be a factor. Um, yeah, it's a few things, but I do think fear is another thing with self-doubt because I think some people have, or in my case, I'll talk about myself. I think for a while I also had a fear of actually reaching success or fear of not actually achieving it because I never seen anybody else achieve it. And because, like I said, coming from a small town in West Texas, ain't nobody in Hollywood, not one person that I can name. No one in my family. Like, it's all you. And when you're the first person to do something like that, it's like, dang, like you said, can I do it? Can I become that person I want to be? Um, but yeah, it all takes baby steps, and you will because you've reached it yourself. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It wasn't an easy journey, but if if I had the power, let's say I had the power and ask you this, to change my past, no matter how difficult it was, if I was going to change it and it was going to change who I am today, I would go through everything that I went through again to become the man that I am now. Would you go through exactly what you went through previously again if it meant that you'd end up right where you are today? If so, why?
You know what's so funny about that question? Because I'm not gonna lie, there has been times when I like review my life's journey. I'm like, oh man, maybe I should have kept with that, or maybe I should have did that, or maybe I should have did that. You have those moments where like, and I'll give a little insight of like what those things were. Like, I started acting at like 14, 15. Me and my mom, we were blessed with the opportunity to go to LA. I got signed with an agent, and then I started doing, we couldn't move, obviously. I have so many siblings. So I would do audition tapes at home, and we used to have to put them on a DVD and mail it to the casting office in Hollywood. And I wasn't booking anything, and I was just like so discouraged, and I stopped. And I was like, I'm just gonna go to college and get my marketing degree. Um, and sometimes I think about that. I'm like, you should have kept going. You don't know where you could have been. That's one. And then I was talking to my younger sister recently, and I was telling her because I had an internship after college to work for Bell Helicopter. They're a helicopter company that builds helicopters for the government, pretty much. So I was around engineers, all this stuff. I didn't want to work there. And I told them, I was like, I think I want to go to film school. They're like, yeah, you should do that. If you want to do that, da 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 da. And then sometimes I think, what would it have been like if I did work for the jet company in Georgia? Like you think of all these alternative versions of you. But then I came to the realization, no, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I've learned so much. I've learned so much about myself, about the industry. growing into the person I need to be to reach the dreams I want, why would I settle for things or try to change things that I may have not even really wanted, but they may have just been placeholders in the moment and they may seem nice in my head, but I do feel like everything happens for a reason and you're right where you need to be, even if it doesn't look like it. Because, like you said, it's not easy. The journey is not easy, but it is beautiful. That's what I'm learning. It's beautiful.
And I'm glad you highlighted that because I was watching an interview earlier today, and the person said that, long story short, was that sometimes you'd be given this blessing, right? You may not know that it's a blessing, but you're given that blessing. Now, the responsibility on you is what are you going to do with that? To your point, right? You were blessed with this family that was supportive. You're blessed with this opportunity. Now, what are you going to do about it? And you said that, hey, you know what? This is exactly what I'm going to do. No regrets, no nothing. I'm going to pursue it 100%. Your support system. How important was it to have your mother, your family, these people that you described supporting you and being there for you, especially earlier on?
Whew, it's everything. A support system is so important, I learned, because for me, I actually said this in another podcast. My family is actually what keeps me going. And I can give so many examples, but I'll give a few. Like when I got the scholarship to go to film school, I was like, no, I'll probably just go to Dallas and work in a corporate job or whatever. And my mom was like, you've been wanting to do this since you were a kid. Like, you got the opportunity. Like you said, you got the blessing. Like, go do it. Like, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. And then another time, so the end of 2024, I lost one of my brothers. We lost a family member, and it was a really hard time for me. And I was like, dang, I've been in LA 7, 8 years. I've been away from my family. Like, I want to stop now. I want to go back home. But we had so much on the horizon at that time because like my short film was licensed to air on Fox Soul, which is a black streaming service under Fox Network, and I was also going to the NAACP Image Awards, and like all these things were lined up, and I was like, I just want to go home. Like, forget all of this. Like, this is crazy. And my mom, and not just my mom, my siblings, my family was like, don't give up. You've come so far. Like, you've come so far. Like, no, like, don't give up. We think it's best if you go back to LA. You keep going because there's power in you keeping going, I realize. You keep going is inspiring other people to keep going. And I think that's like the most beautiful thing about life is like we have each other. Like, like you doing this podcast telling these stories, like this is helping someone, to keep going. And that's the power of a support system, whatever it looks like. This may be your support system. This podcast may be your support system, encouraging you, your family, friends, coworkers, it's just so important to have that because it just keeps you going and keeps the hope alive.
You hear that, everybody? She said this podcast is your support system, so I'm going to take on that role right now. Okay. That is going to be the new theme. I am your support system. I like that. Thank you,
Okay.
Belle.
You're welcome. It's true because sometimes like I'll be scrolling on TikTok and I'll hear a podcast or an interview and I probably don't know who these people are. I've probably never seen them. And I may be the only one watching, but I'm like, damn, these people are right. Follow, like, you know what I mean? So it could be anything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like if I look at all the interviews that I've seen, podcast shows, wherever for like the last, let's say the last month, I couldn't tell you the name of it, but did I enjoy it? 100%. Am I following them? Absolutely. I have to go back in my follow list and be like, okay, who's this again? But I just look, you know what it is that I found in my life, especially now that I'm continuing to find success? When I need to hear something, the universe just says, here you go, Terrain. This is what
Mm.
you need to hear. There's times in my life where I'm just like, man, I'm just having a difficult time with some of my friends because you love them, you want success for them, but they don't want it as bad. I go into
Mm.
YouTube, TikTok, wherever, and I'm like, wow, this podcast is talking to. It goes back to the old joke, right? The phone is always listening. I'm like, my phone is listening to me right now. It knows exactly what I mean. How do you accept that responsibility that I'm responsible for my mindset and I have to keep myself motivated and pursuing my goals?
Whew, that is a good question. I think for me, and according to my therapist, um, what keeps me going is my faith. Like, my belief system. And that could be anything for anybody. For me, like believing like I have a purpose. I'm not just doing this for no reason. I'm not called to this for no reason. I'm not drawn to this for no reason. That keeps me accountable, but also like I don't know if you get this way, but it's like it just won't leave you. You know what I mean? Like it's just on you. Like the like it's just like you gotta do this. You're gonna do this. You need to do this. It's just on you. And like you even said, like the phone listening or like you'll see something. It's like it just won't leave you. And I feel like when it's like that, baby, it's meant to be. You can't run from it. I'm sorry. You gotta accomplish that thing that's on you.
You can't run from your own greatness.
Yes. I love that.
What role do you think then, if you can't run away from it, do you then think it's predetermined or do you think we have control over it and we have to take action?
I love that. I do think we have control over it and can take action. I do believe that because I also feel like you have the this is what I feel. I feel well, a couple of things I'm gonna say. Let me organize my thoughts. Okay, the first thing I think is everything happens at a time and place. I've met a lot of different people in my life. A lot of different people that may have not necessarily believed in their dreams. Like they had a dream and they'll be like, man, Belle, I have a dream to have my own food truck, but I'm working security. This is a true story. And I'm like, do it, do it, do it. What you waiting for? I'm that person. I'm that cheerleader. Do it, do it. And I realized I had to stop doing that because people I would do that to, I would do it to anybody. I remember I worked at Wendy's in high school, my manager, I'm like, you got dreams? Do it, do it. But everyone's dream is different and everybody's timeline is different. And when they're ready to do it, they will. Does that make sense? And you can't necessarily like on the outside for me looking in, like push people to do it, force them to do it. So I do feel it's kind of, I don't know if predestined is the right word, but like there is a time and place for it. Like if they decide to do it, but I do think it's also action behind it because I do feel like you have the choice to also be like, nah, like, because let's not lie, we know people that are brushing that dream away, that are brushing that, nah, I'm just gonna do this. And that doesn't mean they can't find happiness in something else or joy in something else, because I feel like you still can, but it's up to you at the end of the day. That's your choice. That's your free will.
When life starts lifing, do you think that impacts people's pursuit of their dreams?
100%. 100%. Life be lifing. And like you said, like your journey wasn't easy. My journey was not easy as well. Like, and life do be lifing. But when life lives, I think of a few things when that happens. Sometimes I think, well, for one, I do believe it's to make you stronger. Um, I do. And I feel like there's always a lesson afterwards. Even if you don't understand it at that moment, but it will reveal itself later on, like why you went through that or why you had to go through that trial, to, get to the other side. It's funny, I was just listening. Actually, it popped up this morning. the Bible verse, not to get preachy on y'all. I'm not trying to do all that, but it says Romans 8:18, we have sufferings now, but these are nothing compared to the great glory that will be given to us. So I do believe, like, because trust me, I've been through it too, but you always get on the other side. Like, and when you get on that other side, you're like, you appreciate it more. I know some people believe in that. Like sometimes you have to go through it so you can appreciate the good. I know I heard like this Buddhist saying one time, like, there really is no bad because like it always turns into something good. I forgot the saying. It was like a man fell off the horse and broke his leg, but then the nurse that helped him ended up being his wife. And then it just keeps going. Like, like there's nothing never really bad. Like it's always just gonna turn out good. And it doesn't feel like that in the moment. I'm gonna say that right now, but it'll make sense later on. I do believe that.
I think I remember that saying where when something that we think is bad happens, it eventually, sooner or later, leads us to something even better than we once had, such as
Yeah.
the man falling off the horse. If he didn't fall off the horse, he wouldn't have been treated by this nurse, and this nurse ends up being his wife. So maybe he would have never been married. But he had to
Yeah.
break something to find love, right?
I know. It's like couldn't have been another way, but and I don't even know if that was the exact quotation. So don't quote me on that, but it was something like that.
Well, we'll Google it later to make sure we're not giving these people, permission to go break something and find their wives in hospitals and husbands in ER rooms, right?
I know. Yes. Please, please do it at your own discretion. I'm just kidding.
We relatively obtained our success, our goals, our dreams at a certain age, maybe a little bit younger than most people would ultimately achieve it, right? What role do you think then age plays in obtaining our dreams for those who maybe say that I'm too old to pursue it?
I love this question because you're always gonna feel like that, I feel. And let me explain, because it's not real. Because when I first started acting, like I mentioned at 14, and me and my mom went to LA to get an agent, I was looking at the 10-year-olds thinking, damn, I'm too old. You get what I'm saying? When I'm 14, and I was already looking then like, damn, I should be 12. I should be 10 so I could get on Disney Channel. Like, I'm too old. And then once I graduated college at 21 and decided to go to LA to pursue, filmmaking and acting and all the things, even then, I remember thinking, damn, I'm coming here at 21. I'm old. People was doing this at like 18, da 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 da. And then once I got 25, 26, and I didn't book maybe the dream role I wanted, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Everyone already booked, like, became like a super mega star at like 21. I'm getting old. And now I'm gonna be 30 next week from today, 1 week from today. Let me look at a calendar. Literally, oh, July 2nd.
Happy,
So 1 week
happy
from
early
tomorrow.
birthday. Happy early
Oh, thank
birthday.
you. And now about to be 30, that's completely dispelled from my life now because I realize like, dang, how long you gonna be saying that? Like, I feel like you're always going to feel like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's a mind thing. And I don't think it's real at all for people that think, oh my God, I'm too old for this, I'm too old for that. Like something my mom always reminds me of is like, or even some of my friends as well, is like, there's a time and a place for everything. You know what I mean? Like that's even in the Bible too. There's a season for everything under the sun. And you can't control when that happens. Like Pedro Pascal, I think he was later on in life when he finally got his success. Viola Davis later in life when she finally got her success. Not all of us are, and no disrespect to anybody. I love all these people. Not all of us are Dakota Fanny, getting it at 5 years old, like or however old she was. No, and that's okay. But that was her timeline. Everyone's timeline is different, and it's gonna fit you, and you're gonna be grateful for it. Someone I really love is Morgan Freeman, not Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson. Because, he was like a junkie in his younger years and all this stuff. And then when he finally booked the role that changed his life was Jungle Fever, he was playing a junkie. So sometimes you need those life experiences to prepare you for what life has for you next.
Absolutely. And the only time I felt old or young was when I was comparing myself to other people,
Yep.
right? Because you enter a room, for you it would be theater, for me it would be coaching. You enter a room, you're like, oh, I feel before you enter that room, you're doing the training, you're like, oh my God, I feel that I'm too old because maybe your peer group around you a couple years younger. Once you graduate and get into those rooms, you're like, oh, I feel a little bit younger because they're so much seasoned and experience. But once you
Mhm.
take yourself out of both of those situations and you're like, okay, am I doing this on my timeline given my circumstances? You're right on cue.
Yeah. You are. And I love that you mentioned comparing yourself. Because even if you look at all the examples I gave, I was comparing myself to the 12-year-olds at 14, to my peers once I'm 21, 25, like you are. And what is the saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Let me ask you about one final question. But for this question, I want to give you three wishes for this question. But you can't risk for more money because money's already coming in abundance for you, okay?
Amen. Come
There you go.
on.
Preach it, sister,
Hey.
preach it. Um, what are three things you wish people knew about finding their purpose and why?
Wow, three things I wish they knew about finding their purpose and why. Three things I wish they knew about finding their purpose and why. Um, I wish they knew more about how fear is holding you back. Um, because I think a lot of times, and I think I read this somewhere about how, like, sometimes we think fear is like protection, like it's protecting me, like I'm protecting myself, but it can really be holding you back from a lot of things. So, being fearless. I feel like also, um, I don't know if this sounds hippie, but going with the flow a little bit more for my control freaks out there because I know I definitely can be. And there is a time to be like planning point A, point B, controlling things, but then there's a lot of things you can't control. And sometimes you got to flow with the river, the way of the river instead of fighting the river. So I wish they knew that. And I think the third one is faith. Faith in yourself. Faith that everything's gonna work out. And maybe that ties back with fear. I don't know, or maybe they're different, but but I know there's a saying faith over fear. But yeah, so taking out fear, replacing it with faith, because I think when you just have faith, and I think faith and trust tie in together, like trusting yourself, having faith in yourself, faith that, whether you believe in God or the universe got your back. You know what I mean? Like, and no matter what happens, you're on the right path. No matter what happens, you're gonna be good at the end of the day. That changes everything. Because I feel like when people lack that faith and trust in themselves or in life, they can lead into a dark place, a depressing place, and it can be hard to get out of that. So those will be my three wishes and more money.